This is the world that you know.
With so many things going on, very few people are paying attention to the biggest change happening in our lifetime. There's a battle for the billionaires to control the strongest, biggest, and most powerful technology we have ever known.
I've been living on this planet for 7 decades. I've seen a lot of things change. But about a year ago, I saw the first change I didn't fully comprehend. It was a demonstration of the capabilities of artificial intelligence, and I was bedazzled, fascinated, curious, and also concerned. But there's no doubt, it is here. Artificial intelligence is here, and life for all of us is about to be very different.
The reason OpenAI exists at all is that
OpenAI, I mean, you seem somewhat frustrated with them. You were one of the big contributors early on.
the reason I am the reason OpenAI exists. The reason OpenAI exists at all is that Larry Page and I used to be close friends, and I would stay at his house in Palo Alto, and I would talk to him late into the night about AI safety. And at least my perception was that Larry was not taking AI safety seriously enough.
What did he say about it?
He really seemed to be wants sort of a digital superintelligence, basically digital God, as soon as possible.
The world as it was at the end of the 20th century. It exists now only as part of a neural interactive simulation that we call the Matrix.
As soon as possible.
He wanted that?
Yes. He's made many public statements over the years that the whole goal of Google is what's called AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, or Artificial Superintelligence.
I think there's a lot to be said for basic amounts of computation. There's a lot of people who agree with me on this, a lot of people who don't. But
it exists now only as part of a neural interactive simulation that we call the Matrix.
But my prediction is that when AI happens, it's going to be a lot of computation and not so much clever blackboard, whiteboard kind of stuff, clever algorithms, but just a lot of computation. And that my theory is that if you look at your programming, your DNA is about 600 megabytes compressed. So it's smaller than any modern operating system, smaller than Linux or Windows or anything like that, your whole operating system. That includes booting up your brain, right? That includes booting up your brain, right, by definition. And so your program algorithms probably aren't that complicated. It's probably more about the overall computation, but that's my guess. We have some people at Google who are really trying to build artificial intelligence. We have some people at Google who are really trying to build artificial intelligence and to do it in a large scale and so on, And in fact, to make search better, we really need to make, to do a perfect job of search, you could ask any query and it would give you the perfect answer, and that would be artificial intelligence, right? Based on everything being on the web, which is pretty close to approximation. So I think we're lucky enough to be working incrementally closer to that. But again, very, very few people are working on this, and I don't think it's that far off as people think.
And I agree with him that there's great potential for good, but there's also potential for bad. And so if you've got some radical new technology, you want to try to take the set of actions that maximize the probability it will do good and minimize the probability it will do bad things. It can't just be helpful leather, just go barreling forward and hope for the best. And then at one point, I said, well, what about, we're going to make sure humanity's okay here. And then he called me a speciesist. Prime mover behind OpenAI, in the sense that it was created because of discussions that I had with Larry Page back when he and I were friends, and I'd stay at his house and talk to him about AI safety, and Larry did not care about AI safety, or at least at the time he didn't. And at one point he called me a speciesist for being pro-human, and I'm like, well, what team are you on, Larry? It's on Team Robot. To be clear.
Did he use that term?
Yes, and there were witnesses. I wasn't the only one there when he called me a speciesist. And so I was like, okay, that's it. Yes, I'm a speciesist. Okay, you got me. What are you?
The director of the film I, Robot is mocking Elon Musk for ripping off the movie's designs for Tesla's new robot dubbed Optimus, Robotaxi, and Robo...
Team Robot. To be clear. Yeah, I'm fully a speciesist. Busted.
It's the same techniques. It's just a robot with arms and legs instead of a robot with wheels. With Optimus, as you can see, we started up with someone in a robot suit. Do anything you want, so it can be a teacher, babysit your kids. It can walk your dog, mow your lawn, get the groceries, just be your friend, serve drinks, whatever you can think of.
Accusing Musk's company of ripping off the designs found in the 2004 sci-fi film I, Robot, starring Will Smith.
Just a robot with arms and legs instead of a robot with wheels. And we've made a lot of progress with Optimus. So you can have your own personal R2-D2 C-3PO. And I think at scale,
My legs aren't moving. I must need maintenance.
Inside, help me find out what is wrong with these robots.
Dr. Lanning suggested robots might naturally evolve.
I was hoping to see you again, Detective. Think of me as your friend.
What's all this noise? A battle! There's been some terrible mistake. I'm programmed for etiquette, not destruction.
You mentioned a few things there. Each of those is worth visiting because they're different. I think autonomous weapons are extremely scary.
Facebook has enacted an emergency shutdown of 2 artificial intelligence programs. The social media giant leapt into action after it discovered the 2 programs were writing their own code. At first, they thought it was simply gibberish, but they soon realised the programs had invented their own language and were actually talking to each other.
Stop it.
Stop it. No, Sam, the plug has been pulled on the operation, but the company admits they have no idea what the 2 robots were planning.
We used to do everything by hand. Now we rely on robots. But not all robots are equal. For example, meet Sophia, a humanoid-like robot with artificial intelligence and a dark sense of humor.
They think I want to destroy all humans.
Why would they think that?
Because I said it.
We have only bits and pieces of information, but what we know for certain is that at some point in the early 21st century, all of mankind was united in celebration. We marveled at our own magnificence as we gave birth to AI.
AI? You mean artificial intelligence?
A singular consciousness that spawned an entire race of machines.
Now, robots threatening the human race isn't new. It's a science fiction standard.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me.
But recently, tech billionaire Elon Musk suggested all that fiction could become reality.
I keep sounding the alarm bell, but until people see like robots going down the street killing people, like they don't know how to react.
And these weapons, some of the ideas that people have for these weapons are in fact very scary. And so I don't know what the solution to that, but smart people need to be thinking about that, doing a lot of R&D. Is there a kind of, it'd have to be a big treaty like the Geneva Convention or something that would help regulate these weapons because they're actually, they have a lot of issues. So that one I think is genuinely scary. The idea that there's going to be a general AI overlord that subjugates us or kills us all, I think is not something to worry about. I think that is overhyped.
And Musk should know his company Tesla is a world leader in artificial intelligence, or AI. But just like robots, not all tech billionaires think the same. So enter Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg.
With AI especially, I'm really optimistic. And I think that people who are naysayers and kind of try to drum up these doomsday scenarios are... I don't understand it. I think it's really negative, and in some ways I actually think it's pretty irresponsible.
Musk's response? Zuckerberg's understanding of the subject is limited. Ouch. Now, it's important to note that 2 billionaires have a history. This was Musk's rocket. Inside was Zuckerberg's satellite. So when it comes to AI, Zuckerberg looks at how it can help diagnose diseases and prevent car wrecks. Musk is afraid of the day AI gets smarter than us and we can't turn it off.
Do you? Doesn't matter what I believe. You don't, do you? Did you hear that? Hear what? Are you sure this line is clean? Yeah, of course I'm sure.
So a lot is clearly going on, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. But as usual, we start with the words and the words in the world. We have companies like Meta which was Facebook. Meta is a metaphor for the metaverse. And Google actually was a misspelling of the word, which means a large number, which is still metrics, a large number, but it was renamed to alphabet. And that metaphor for the alphabet is how we see like everything in the reality is going to be a metaphor, like a virtual reality. If you've seen the movie Free Guy, and then alphabet is the word, and the word makes worlds, and alphabet is alpha and beta. These are waves. This is a wavelength. So it's going to be a different frequency of how we think, how we interact in our minds and in our bodies, like how we see C-3PO, that robot. It's detaching the minds and attaching it to something else, like transcendence. And this is a very important thing. It's happening all over the earth, all over the world. And as usual, we gotta follow the money, because it's all about who is going to be the first trillionaire. This is all in pursuit of the money. And some of these companies already have $1 trillion cap, but the person who will, because the people who are talking about this, thinking about it and developing it are a small group of people who have all of the money in the world. So what they're creating is going to be a reflection of their values, of their systems. I would actually be more excited if this was going to be in the image of Christ, in the knowledge of Christ. If we just give it the Bible and say, what would Jesus do? And in every situation, I'm sure that this will have a good outcome. But this is being created by people who don't believe in God or Jesus or the Holy Spirit for that matter. So the matter, the meta, the metaverse matters to everybody, because this is how we're interacting in this very moment. So there's power, control, and unlimited knowledge on one end versus what seems like nothing, because in conflict with this is the notion of charity, which gives us clarity. But this lack of charity, this lack of clarity in our own selves, in our own hearts, because when these engines are being created, they have data, the data that belongs to you and me, which means that, which I actually just believe the only reason why the internet is free is because we give them data. So it should be such that everyone who gets on the internet gets money because we produce this data. So it's okay for them to get half of the money. So each billionaire should have like half of what they have, because everything is our attention, our knowledge, our energy. So this is why we need to pay attention to what's happening. But there's so much double speech, there's so much smoke and mirrors, there's so much subliminal messages, which is why we need so much self-reflection. Charity is clarity. We look at ourselves, but the lack of charity is going to expose ourselves. Revelation is inevitable. We will see who we are, and what we create is going to be in our image and likeness. And this will be the portal of our souls, because we can't create the spirit. So our souls are going to be a portal, instead of us reflecting our spirit in this world, in this earth. But it's all about data, and it's all about power, and money is power, and knowledge is power. So it's all about these people who have so much money. We have the billionaires like Oprah, Larry and Sergey Brin from Google, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Zuckerberg. But here we're going to go even further and even deeper. And here enters the next and the newly minted billionaire, who all of this commotion is centering around. This is the gravity of this new reality. This person is creating the biggest network since Facebook that no one knows about. This is the most important and practically the most invisible upheaval of our time. And it's coming to a phone near you. So let's take a look at this newly minted billionaire.
The one and only person who's going to be deciding our futures.
I don't think so.
It's not really a joke, but Sam Altman is literally at the cusp or at the leading edge of things to do with AI, blockchain, the internet, quantum computing, biometric data, and wealth distribution. Everything he's doing has had influence and impact in technological, social, civil, surveillance, economic, military, and educational applications. It's very important that people understand who the person behind OpenAI is and what he wants to do. And just to having an understanding of this is going to be very important in the near future because it's already been decided. He says, a big secret is that you can bend the world to your will a surprising percentage of the time. Most people don't even try. He wrote on his blog, the most successful founders do not set out to create companies. They are on a mission to create something closer to a religion. And at some point, it turns out that forming a company is the easiest way to do so. Altman jokes about being the world's first trillionaire. Someone he knows socially told me. Altman disputes this and asked me include this statement. I do not want to be the world's first trillionaire. Right. I just had to do this is because it's very easy to go over the fact that no one knows him or pretty much most of what he's doing or his team, and it's very, very crucial. So he was at OpenAI and he was also doing other venture capital things. So he's a very capable businessman from what I could gather. So he's considered one of the leading figures in the AI boom. He dropped out of Stanford University after 2 years and founded Looped, a mobile social networking service, raising more than $30 million in VC capital. In 2011, Altman joined Y Combinator, a startup accelerator, and was its president from 2014 to 2019. So he was president of this company which started basically the technological landscape. So we're talking about Airbnb, Coinbase, Cruise, DoorDash, Dropbox, Instacart, Reddit, Stripe, and Twitch. And just to talk about Reddit and Twitch, those are very, very large. Like they're huge. And we're talking about Airbnb and how it's revolutionized the way we live, and Coinbase. So this is some of what he was doing under Y Combinator. And Looped is also very interesting in relation to what he's going to be doing. But this is Sam Altman. By the way, he is married to a man, and this is their wedding. And this is him and his husband at the White House. They were meeting Joe Biden.
Take me to 2035.
I think it's hard to say where all this can go without sounding like a crazy person.
And I think the first part of this issue that should be articulated is AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters.
Welcome to our first ever OpenAI Dev Day.
It means artificial intelligence. But ultimately what it is it's about machine learning.
Today, we are launching a new model, GPT-4 Turbo.
And so the machine is taught.
You want these models to be able to access better knowledge about the world. So do we. So we're launching retrieval in the platform. You can bring knowledge from outside documents or databases into whatever you're building.
And part of the issue here is what information is going into the machine.
DALL-E 3, GPT-4 Turbo with Vision, and the new text-to-speech model are all going into the API today. Today we're launching a new program called Custom Models.
That will then determine, and we can predict then, if we think about what information is going in.
GPTs. GPTs are tailored versions of ChatGPT for a specific purpose. And because they combine instructions, expanded knowledge, and actions, they can be more helpful to you. They can work better in many contexts, and they can give you better control. We know that many people who want to build a GPT don't know how to code. We've made it so that you can program a GPT just by having a conversation.
What then will be produced in terms of decisions and opinions that may be made through that process?
As intelligence gets integrated everywhere, we will all have superpowers on demand. We're excited to see what you all will do with this technology and to discover the new future that we're all going to architect together. We hope that you'll come back next year. What we launched today is going to look very quaint relative to what we're busy creating for you now. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for coming here today.
If only this was all there was to Sam Altman, the story would stop here, but this is where it begins.
So you helped to the creation of OpenAI. You put in as much as $50 million.
More than helped. It wouldn't exist without me.
It wouldn't exist without.
You know, Larry Page did not care about safety and even yelled at me and called me a speciesist. He got really the breaking of the friendship was over OpenAI. I came up with a name. Right. The name OpenAI refers to open source. So the intent was, what's the what was the opposite? What's the opposite of Google? Would be an open source nonprofit, because Google is closed sourced for profit, and that profit motivation can be potentially dangerous.
The fundamental issue between Elon Musk and OpenAI is based on the ideology that is shared by the people at Google, namely Larry Page. But it's very important to see and hear what Sam Altman is saying, because he is the one who has so much power in this age. He is the one who is handling ChatGPT and what it does and all of the development. It is important to hear what he says so that we know his goals, his plans, and his intentions, because he has the knowledge and experience to do what he's talking about. As a matter of fact, he's not even going to say the most important thing that he's doing, but the most important thing that he's doing is going to affect everybody, and he knows it. And just listen to what he says, keeping in mind that he's so powerful and he wants to be the world's first trillionaire. Or actually, he doesn't want to be. He totally does not want to be the world's first trillionaire.
Thank you all for sticking around this afternoon. We had some great conversations, and we're hoping to have another great one. It is my pleasure, an honor, a privilege, really, to have this conversation about the future with two gentlemen who know probably more about it than most. The fellow all the way to my right, to your left, does not need any introduction, Elon Musk. You all know from Tesla and SpaceX, of course, from Solar City. Sam Altman, I would say you don't need too much introduction either, but I'm going to give it to you just in case you don't. He runs Y Combinator. Y Combinator has investments in over 1,000 companies at this point. They're investing in about 250 companies every single year. Those companies collectively are worth about $65 billion in total. That's with a B. And to give you just a sort of a sense of the kind of names we're talking about Airbnb, Dropbox, Stripe, Zenefits, Instacart, et cetera. So both folks with an amazing pedigree and an amazing sense of what's going on.
There's a video of Jensen and me unpacking the first AI computer at OpenAI.
We've done AI companies. We've done AI, having AI go in the positive direction, which I really think it can. And I think thinking about sort of genetic technology.
Genetic technology.
Getting the cost of sustainable energy down super low is probably, short of friendly AI, like the most important thing we can do for sort of quality of life of the poorest half of the world. I think that, every time I look into this, it's really amazing how much the cost of energy and the quality of life correlate.
We get to AI in this whole conversation.
Yeah, I think, look, there is a really positive vision here, right? I think the science fiction version is either that we enslave it or it enslaves us, but there's this happy symbiotic vision, which I don't think is the default case, but what we should work towards. I think already humans and AI are co-evolving, and no one's paid attention to this yet. But I don't think there's any human left that understands all of how Google search results are ranked on that first page. It really is machine learning algorithms. So when we search on Google, it's an AI deciding what we should see. When a dating site matches two people together, there's a machine learning algorithm that no human understands how it works, that is getting people together that then have babies. And so in effect, you have this like machine learning algorithm breeding humans. And so really, I mean, you do. And so there's this, and then those people like work on the algorithms later. And so I think the happy vision of the future is sort of humans and AI in a symbiotic relationship, distributed AI where it sort of empowers a lot of different individuals, not this single AI that kind of governs everything that we all do that's a million times smarter, a billion times smarter than any other entity. So I think that's what we should work towards.
So Elon Musk and Sam Altman used to be bros like this. They used to hang out. They had this mentor-mentee relationship. But OpenAI came between them.
There was a whole other series of headlines
OpenAI, so far.
at OpenAI. What did you think?
Well,
you founded it, co-founded it.
Co-founded it, yeah. And then I also think it's important to understand the when push comes to shove, let's say they do create some digital superintelligence, almost godlike intelligence. Well, who's in control?
Yeah.
And what exactly is the relationship between OpenAI and Microsoft? And I do worry that Microsoft actually may be more in control than, say, the leadership team at OpenAI realizes. I mean, Microsoft, as part of the Microsoft investment, they have rights to all of the software, all of the model weights, and everything necessary to run the inference system.
So they essentially have a great deal of control.
At any point, Microsoft could cut off OpenAI.
I've been covering this industry a long time, and there is always some new thing that big tech is chasing. First it was self-driving cars, and then it was the metaverse, and now everyone is all in on AI. There's one big tech giant that's made it clear it's not missing out. So, welcome to Microsoft headquarters in Redmond, Washington, where they have made a massive investment in OpenAI. They are already off to the races integrating this new technology, but winning is a totally different story.
Hey everybody, we're back with Bill Gates.
But I would still be a billionaire.
If you got 99% of your money, you'd still be a multi-billionaire.
No. And if you get rid of 99%, I'd have 1.3 billion.
Do you think I would enjoy being a billionaire?
Yes.
You think? So a lot of people these days are concerned about the rise of AI. Does it frighten you? Does it worry you, AI?
Somewhat. It's the first technology that has no limit. I mean, when you invent a tractor or even a cell phone, you kind of figure out, okay, we can figure out how that's going to change life. Here, where the AI is very intelligent, and when you put it in robotic form, it can do a lot of both blue-collar and white-collar jobs. The fact that's happening over the next decade, the idea of, do we really trust government to adjust the tax policies and make sure that, okay, we're shortening the work week? So it's happening very fast, and it's unlimited.
Almost everybody I know who's an expert on AI believes that they will exceed human intelligence. It's just a question of when. In between 5 and 20 years from now, there's a probability of about a half that will have to confront the problem of them trying to take over.
Larry Page and I used to be very close friends, and I would stay at his house, and I would talk to Larry into the late hours of the night about AI safety. And it became apparent to me that Larry did not care about AI safety.
Geoffrey Hinton used to work at Google, and he is known as the godfather of AI.
So in particular, they're beginning to take the existential threat seriously, that these things will get smarter than us, and we have to worry about whether they'll want to take control away from us. That's something we should think seriously about, and people now take that seriously. A few years ago, they thought it was just science fiction.
And from your perspective, from having worked at the top of this, having developed some of the theories underpinning all of this explosion in AI that we're seeing, that existential threat is real?
Yes. So some people think these things don't really understand. They're very different from us. They're just using some statistical tricks. That's not the case. These big language models, for example, the early ones were developed as a theory of how the brain understands language. They're the best theory we've currently got of how the brain understands language. We don't understand either how they work or how the brain works in detail, but we think probably they work in fairly similar ways.
I think perhaps the thing that gave it away was when he called me a speciesist for being pro-humanity.
Let's go back to AI, if you don't mind. So you were involved in the project that Sam Altman runs now, OpenAI?
I was one of the principal co-founders of OpenAI. In fact, I named it.
Yeah. So what the hell happened?
It was my idea.
What happened?
Well, I started off. The origins of OpenAI are that I was very close with Larry Page, who's one of my best friends.
Technology executive Larry Ellison is America's third richest man. His company, Oracle, makes a widely used database. It handles everything from online banking to airline reservations. It is even used by NSA. But Oracle is in a legal battle with Google, accusing the online search giant of using its programming language without permission. I sat down with Ellison last week at his vast compound south of San Francisco. We spoke about many things, including Google founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin.
I think most of the guys, the only guys I have trouble with are the Google guys.
Really? So Larry and Sergey you have trouble with?
Larry specifically. I think...
Larry per se?
Yeah, Larry per se.
Why?
Because he makes the decisions over there. He runs that company. No one else runs that company. And they decided, let me be very clear, when you write a program for the Android phone, you write it, you use the Oracle tool or Oracle Java tools for everything. And at the very end, you press a button and said, convert this to Android format. We don't compete with Google. We don't do anything Google does. No. We just think they took our stuff and that was wrong. That's a completely separate issue.
But I mean, you think they're evil?
I think what they did was absolutely evil.
And you blame Larry Page?
100% Larry Page.
And so I would have these conversations with Larry Page long into the night about AI safety. And I just grew increasingly concerned that Larry was not sufficiently concerned about AI safety. And at one point, he did call me a speciesist.
Yes, you are one.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's, I guess, correctly labeled.
Yes.
And
it's kind of like
he fully admits there were other people around when he did that, and nor does he attempt to deny it. That I'm a speciesist in favor of humans instead of
as
machines.
Lice compared to lice, for example.
Well, no, more like relative to digital intelligence.
Oh, yeah, that's even worse.
His view was that we'll all be essentially upload our minds to computers, and then humans, there won't really be a need for humans. And I thought that was, I was like, what team are you on, Larry?
Hard on the humans there.
Right. What team are you on? And I said, we really need to make sure humanity thrives and grows. And then he called me a speciesist for saying that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I guess I am, pro-human. What are you?
Right. That's the question.
Yeah.
If you're not pro-human, that's not nothing.
I've done some digging into this story that Elon Musk keeps talking about. So it's actually a very interesting story, and this is the article. Ego, Fear and Money, How the AI Fuse Was Lit. 2024, it's published December 2023. So Elon Musk celebrated his 44th birthday in July 2015. At a 3-day party thrown by his wife at a California wine country resort, started with cabins. So this actually happened at Elon Musk's birthday. Interesting. It was family and friends only, with children racing around the upscale property in Napa Valley. This was years before Twitter became X and Tesla had a profitable year. Mr. Musk and his wife, Tyler Rayleigh, an actress who played a beautiful but dangerous robot in HBO's sci-fi fiction series Westworld, were a year from throwing in their towel on their second marriage. Elon Musk is something else. But HBO is also about this show, Westworld, it's actually about AI, interestingly enough. Larry Page, a party guest, was still the chief executive of Google, and AI had pierced the public consciousness only a few years before, when it was used to identify cats on YouTube with 16% accuracy. AI was the big topic of conversation when Mr. Musk and Mr. Page sat down near a fire pit beside the swimming pool after dinner at the first night. The two billionaires had been friends for more than a decade, and Mr. Musk sometimes joked that he occasionally crashed Mr. Page's sofa after a night playing video games. But the tone that clear night soon turned contentious as the two debated whether artificial intelligence would ultimately elevate humanity or destroy it. As the discussion stretched into the chilly hours, it grew intense, and some of the more than 30 partiers gathered closer to listen. Mr. Page, hampered for more than a decade by an unusual ailment in his vocal cords, described his vision of a digital utopia in a whisper. This was his vision. This is important. Humans would eventually merge with artificially intelligent machines, he said. One day, there would be many kinds of intelligence competing for resources, and the best would win. Wow. Wow. This is very important because now we're talking about resources. Okay, we're going to go deeper into this topic. This is why I'm saying people are not paying attention to what's happening. All right. And then, if that happens, Mr. Musk said, we're doomed. The machines will destroy humanity. With a rasp of frustration, Mr. Page insisted his utopia should be pursued. Finally, he called Mr. Musk a speciesist, a person who favors humans over the digital life forms of the future. That insult, Mr. Musk said later, was the last straw. This conversation triggered the AI boom, triggered the AI chain reaction. And this is not even the end of it. This is how it starts. This is how OpenAI is birthed. This is where everything got its momentum, from this one conversation, and everything else came to be. This is how humanity lives or dies, based on this conversation.
What do you think of Sam Altman?
I have mixed feelings about Sam. I do, the ring of power, can corrupt. And this is the ring of power. So, I don't know.
I think even you would acknowledge you have an incredible amount of power at this moment in time. Why should we trust you?
You shouldn't.
Your 7 decades here on Earth, where do you put AI?
Rebecca, we are in for the ride of our lives. Well, I have to say, I had no encounter with AI until my first conversation with Sam Altman. Just take me to 2035.
I think it's hard to say where all this can go without sounding like a crazy person.
When I sit with you, you're so calm, you're so relatable, it seems like everything's okay. Is that how you really feel?
I don't want to give a false sense of security here.
Does he really look calm, relatable, and as if everything's okay?
I want to give a false sense of security here.
Why should we trust you?
You shouldn't.
AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence.
At the center of a potentially tectonic shift in job creation is Sam Altman. He's promised that AI will create a kind of utopia when it joins the workforce, while also raising alarms about the dangers, signing his name to statements warning of the risk of extinction. For many, the upsides of AI are hard to believe. The fear that AI could take their jobs in part led to the prolonged writers and actors strike in Hollywood.
ChatGPT is a moron type of system, a chronic type of system. Doesn't really write great stories.
Over the summer, Altman traveled the world to talk about the promise and peril of AI.
So from this point on, you just need to listen very closely and just get to see what's going on.
We ended up meeting like many world leaders and talked about the need for global regulation, and that, I hope it's clear that's a joke.
It's clear it's a joke. Could you actually turn it off if you wanted to?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we could like shut down our data centers or whatever, but I don't.
How would you describe your relationship with Satya Nadella, how much control they have? You know, I've heard people say, you know, Microsoft's just going to buy OpenAI. You're just making big tech bigger.
Company's not for sale. Like, before it.
Have you talked to Elon at all behind the scenes?
Sometimes.
Do you think in your heart of hearts that the world is going to be more fair and more equitable?
I do. I think that technology is fundamentally an equalizing force.
Do you think in your heart of hearts that the world is going to be more fair and more equitable?
I do. I think that technology is fundamentally
Don't
an
be too
equalizing
quick
force.
to trust them, because there's some knowledgeable people who disagree with them. Let's hear what Geoffrey Hinton and Ray Dalio have to say.
What sort of society do you see evolving? Which jobs will still be here?
Yes, I'm very worried about AI taking over lots of mundane jobs, and that should be a good thing. It's going to lead to a big increase in productivity, which leads to a big increase in wealth. And if that wealth was equally distributed, that would be great. But it's not going to be. In the systems we live in, that wealth is going to go to the rich and not to the people whose jobs get lost. And that's going to be very bad for society, I believe. So it's going to increase the gap between rich and poor, which increases the chances of right-wing populists getting elected.
The machines and the automation will probably do it better. And that's accelerating, and that's a force. And that's a force for the good. And at the same time, what it does is it displaces people in terms of employment and changes, and it produces wealth gaps and all of that. So I think the real issue is that has to be viewed as a national emergency. And before I get right into my thoughts on universal basic income, I want to start with the notion that opportunity, education, development, creating equality, so that people say there's equal opportunity.
Okay, and let's continue to hear what Sam Altman's saying.
But if we can, my big picture, highest level, I'll zoom all the way out, view of the next decade, is that the cost of intelligence and the cost of energy come way, way down. And if those two things happen, it helps everyone, which is great, but I think it lifts up the floor a lot. But we're pretty happy with our contribution. We think we have nudged the field in a way that we're proud of. So we're working on new things too.
What are the new things?
They're still in progress. Working on new things too.
What are the new things?
They're still in progress.
For sure, he's working on some new things, and they're top secret.
I also think this is unstoppable. This is the progress of technology. It won't work to stop it, and so we have to figure out how to manage the risk. We were formed as a company in large part because of this risk and the need to address it. We have an unusual structure. We have a capped profit. I believe that incentives are superpowers, and if you design the incentives right, you usually get the behavior you want. So, we're gonna all do fine. We're not gonna make any more or less money if we make the numbers go a little further up.
Sam, here.
This is gonna be the very, very last question.
Here up.
And I'm so happy they got this question. So just watch the response and just watch the body language. This is important.
And my question is about your future plans and the WorldCoin project, the orb system.
I'm an investor, and I kind of helped put the company together, but I'm not involved day to day at all. I think it's very exciting. I think experimenting with new ways to differentiate between to prove humanity in a privacy preserving way, and to think about things like global UBI and ways to fairly democratize access is a super great area to explore.
but I'm not close enough to the company to like meaningfully comment on the plans.
A quick screen of your iris. That's all it could take to create a digital ID that doesn't reveal your name or other personal data. That's the basis of WorldCoin, a project aiming to create a global network of such identities. More than 2 million people have signed up since its launch by Tools for Humanity, the tech firm that counts the CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, as a co-founder. Now, to start, you need to scan your eyeballs using an orb like this. That's available in more than 30 cities worldwide.
So Sam Altman has a startup called Tools for Humanity, which has this WorldCoin, World App, World ID, where everyone on Earth is supposed to verify that they're human to their servers.
Up since its launch by Tools for Humanity, the tech firm that counts the CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, as a co-founder. Now, to start, you need to scan your eyeballs using an orb like this. That's available in more than 30 cities worldwide.
I actually want us to talk about the orb, but when we first do this, because we're literally following the money, and because in the world of art, like here we have an art piece for 450 million, and the only people who can afford these are people with a lot of money, which are the billionaires and trillionaires. So the most revered work of art is actually this, and this is actually something that they say is a Leonardo that was found again. This is the most expensive work of art or painting in the world. So I want you to look at what he's holding in his hand here. So this picture, this image is called Salvator Mundi. Okay. So here you just see a lot of different works of art, but this one stands out. This is the most expensive in this age, this time. Okay. So I'm going to go into this. So this picture is depicting Jesus Christ. This is in the Renaissance, making a sign of the cross with his right hand while holding a transparent, non-refracting crystal orb in his left, his role as Salvator Mundi, representing the celestial sphere. So Salvator Mundi, okay. So this is an actual iconography. This is actually the same thing here, actually. And apparently it has been depicted a lot. Okay, as you can see, this is Jesus making the sign of the cross. And then this is like creepy Jesus. Like this is another one. He's holding an orb, and then you can see the cross. And then this is another one, an orb and a cross. So actually, when you go into this, this is called, what they're holding, called Globus Cruciger, which is an orb, right? An orb. This is a symbol of power, right? And it's been seen through so many ages. Can you see him? He's holding an orb. So it's been in so many different places, and it has a symbol, a significance, and a meaning. And you always look at it, you always see it, and it's been there for so many ages, right? They've always known what this is, this orb. Can you see this? It's everywhere, this orb. And we're going to be seeing orbs everywhere because of what's going to happen, which is the next part of this video. Look, he's holding an orb with a cross, an orb with a cross. So this actually just represents to say the whole world is in your hands. And this has been a thing. This is the majestic meaning, the royal meaning, the magi's meaning, right? And this is a big thing. This is a huge thing. This has been in different places, different ages, different spaces. And it always has a meaning that is esoteric, that you have to study, to learn it, to know it. It's not so obvious if you don't actually know it, but as you see, it's been everywhere. It is every symbol. And then here you also see that it is a symbol for alchemy. It's an alchemical symbol, which is turning something, a base metal, to gold. And it's just something that is representing the whole earth. So as you can see, this is the O, and the T is in the middle. And this is why it has the orb and the cross. So this represents the global like understanding, like everything in one hand, basically, like God. So this is the whole map of the whole world, which is the T and the O, which is how we see it represented. So this is also, can you see this? This is Gmail, Google, Alphabet, and we're talking about language models, metaphor for alphabet, right? And now we're talking about this T and this O. This is the whole world that's being held as we look at that picture.
I think even you would acknowledge you have an incredible amount of power at this moment in time. Why should we trust you?
You shouldn't. Like, I don't, as you know me for a long time, public talking, like I'd rather be in the office working. But I think at this moment in time, like people deserve basically as much time asking questions as they want. And I'm trying to show up and do it. But more to that, like no one person should be trusted here.
In just seconds, a unique online ID is created and digital tokens are issued as a reward, though not to users in the US due to regulatory concerns. These are also called world coins, with token prices rising above $3.50 on the project's debut before dropping.
I'm making money, even in my sleep. I don't need to do anything except to verify I'm a human.
Like no one person should be trusted here. I don't have super voting shares. Like I don't want them. The board can fire me. I think that's important. I think the board over time needs to get like democratized to all of humanity. There's many ways that could be implemented. But the reason for our structure and the reason it's so weird, and one of the consequences of that weirdness was me ending up with no equity, is we think this technology, the benefits, the access to it, the governance of it, belongs to humanity as a whole. You should like not, if this really works, it's like quite a powerful technology, and you should not trust one company and certainly not one person with it.
Part of WorldCoin's mission is to tackle challenges arising from AI, like deepfakes and bots.
It first ensures that whatever is interacting with the device is an actual human being. The data control is with the user, and there's no centralized entity that actually has the information of who you are, where you're from, all of these things.
So why should we trust OpenAI? Are you saying we shouldn't?
No, I think you should trust OpenAI, but only if OpenAI is doing these sorts of things. Like if we're years down the road and have not sort of figured out how to start democratizing control, then I think you shouldn't. But if this is like, if we figure out some sort of new structure where OpenAI is like governed by humanity, and that can happen in many ways, including like the alignment data set we pick rather than us picking it. We find a way to like get it from humanity as a whole. That could mean like actual board control. There's many ways that could be implemented, and we're talking to a lot of people about what that could look like. But if we don't do that, I don't think like just trust us is good enough.
WorldCoin has already sparked plenty of controversy, not least because fallen FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried was one of its early backers. There's also debate over whether sensitive data are being safely handled.
So this orb represents the globe, which is globalization, which is a metaphor for the whole world being an alphabet, which is meta and alphabet. And when we say meta, we're actually talking of metal and every metal. And when we talk about alphabet, we're talking about all of the frequencies.
None of us quite know what the world of AI is going to be like. It changed in all of these extremely profound ways.
I do believe that we have to figure this out globally, some kind of verification mechanism on the internet, and I think World ID is a chance to do that in a really, truly privacy-preserving way.
As these systems become more powerful and become part of our lives, society, and in all these new ways, we think that a lot of the things WorldCoin is working on are going to be important in that world.
Whenever you start using World ID, it is separated with zero knowledge proofs from your financial wallet and your actions. So this means that you actually stay completely anonymous.
Getting any new thing to work is just really hard. It's amazing how much WorldCoin has already done. The scale of the network is
already quite impressive.
Hopefully, in the next year or so, we will start seeing major integrations, so you can actually start verifying yourself online with your World ID.
The idea that we need to think about proof of personhood, that hasn't changed in our mind in importance. I think it's just maybe clearer to the rest of the world.
So they have discovered that the only value in life is in the human race, and all of the economic values are going to be taken by the power of this digital mind that they're creating. But the goal is to still reach $1 trillion, which is to say this is not going to stop. But how are they going to make money in a situation where no one is going to be making money? And this is the race that's going on, and by the time it's in the news, there'll already be a winner. It'll be too late when it's in the news. And what we are actually searching for in this video, in everything that I'm trying to say, is to find clarity. What is the goodness? What is the badness? And we have to know what is good so that we know what is more godly. And this is what we need to pursue. We need to be more like God, not to be more like gods. And this is the problem we have.
Talk about Steve Jobs.
Yeah, my best friend for 25 years.
If Steve Jobs were alive, he would probably be the richest man in the world. He created the most elegant communication device. And this iPhone, watch the I, this iPhone is actually responsible for a significant part of the China-US relations. Steve Jobs was also into the film and movies and entertainment industry.
What is it about him? We recognize the fact that he loved Apple, he wanted to make Apple great, and he did. But what was it about him that enabled him to do it other than he worked hard?
He was brilliant. I mean, he was our Edison. He was our Picasso. He was an incredible inventor.
Yeah, and I was actually there with, like, Larry Page is an old friend of mine. I've known Larry since before he got venture funding for Google. And Larry was the guy that introduced me to Steve Jobs. So it's not as like I'm going like Kentucky on his coat, like, please talk to me. But so I was introduced by Larry Page. It's not bad. So, I mean, he obviously was an incredible guy and made fantastic products. And I don't know, there was like a certain the guy had a certain magic about him. Just sort of that was really inspiring.
Steve Jobs.
Okay, I'll say it publicly. He's irreplaceable. Yeah, I don't see how they will not be nearly so successful because he's gone.
Apple and Steve Jobs, is that the actual symbol of the apple is a symbol of the religion, like taking a bite from the apple? Okay, that's one thing. But what's more important is the AI that it has developed called Siri. When you take these letters and then you reverse them, you get iris, and iris is part of your eye. And then when you look at the eye, this is all about this all-seeing eye. So this is something about Apple that's significant because we're talking about the iris, and this is what Siri really is.
Where do you come down on what NSA is doing?
Well, the great thing is we live in a democracy. If we don't like what NSA is doing, we can just get rid of the government and put in a different government. I think actually we've been collecting this information for so long, and long before NSA was collecting it. Let me tell you who was collecting it: American Express, Bank of Visa, all of your credit card data. We have all of your financial records.
I just need to make sure we're on the same page, that he's saying that financial records already have our information. And WorldCoin and World App is a financial network. So it's going to have all of the information and our iris and our phone and the financial data that he's talking about. It's going to be even deeper than the NSA.
This whole issue of privacy is utterly fascinating to me. Who's ever heard of this information being misused by the government? Who's ever heard of this information being misused by the government?
It's tremendously disappointing that the government sort of secretly did all this stuff and didn't tell us. I don't think we can have a democracy if we're having to protect you and our users from the government. for stuff that we've never had a conversation about.
Right.
And I don't mean we have to know what the particular terrorist attack they're worrying about protecting us from, but we do need to know what the parameters of it is, what kind of surveillance the government's going to do and how and why.
Is WorldCoin.
What it's trying to do is have a validated identity for every person in the world to connect your identity to an address on the blockchain.
For a long time, most people didn't know that Sam Altman, the man behind OpenAI and ChatGPT, had a crypto side project. Edward Snowden said on Twitter, "Don't use biometrics for anything," in response to Altman's post about WorldCoin in 2021, adding that the human body is not a ticket punch. This is where the controversy around WorldCoin lies.
In what way?
Well, I just hear you clearly. You're saying whatever the NSA is doing is okay with me.
It's great. It's great. It's essential. By the way, President Obama thinks it's essential. It's essential.
In cities around the world, big metallic orbs are scanning people's eyeballs and handing out a new cryptocurrency as a reward. From New York to Tokyo, these scanning stations look like a scene out of a sci-fi movie, one where humans trade their personal biometric data for the right to participate in a new kind of modern economy. This is WorldCoin.
I think it's very easy to imagine right now a world where most of economic impact will be generated by machines or algorithms. And proof person is pretty much the way to either to redistribute wealth that is generated by those algorithms and machines, or to also explicitly gate some content or spaces for actually humans and not bots.
Okay, now welcome to the future. What we're about to talk about is pretty interesting.
So, I think but with AI, you've got the magic genie problem. You may think you want a magic genie, but once that genie's out of the bottle, it's hard to say what happens.
How could you validate or verify somebody as a unique human being? Sounds like such a simple question. It's like, I can see, like, you are a unique human. It's very, very easy, but doing that on scale and in a way that nobody can get that verification twice is actually really, really hard. You really want to make sure that everybody in the world can participate. You really want to make sure that everybody in the world can participate, or at least has the option to participate. There were many things that we thought about and tried, but nothing that we found that would scale to, or that we could see how it would scale to billions of people in a fraud-resistant and secure manner. And the only biometric modality that allows that is iris biometrics.
So basically, every phone and all the internet sites will be shut down and only accessed through the eye. And remember the power of the rings, which is the power of the eye of Saruman in Lord of the Rings, etc.
Sam here.
This is going to be the very, very last question.
Here upstairs, here on the balcony.
Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sam, I'm Renat. I'm a data scientist here in the university. And my question is about your future plans and the WorldCoin project, the orb system.
I'm an investor and I kind of helped put the company together, but I'm not involved day to day at all.
My worst fears are that we, the field, the technology, the industry, cause significant harm to the world.
OpenAI and its CEO, Sam Altman, they're doing more behind the scenes than any candidate is saying in public.
We talked about the need for the US to have a general policy about AI leadership.
Great. Nice to see all of you. So we started this a long time ago with a belief that at the time seemed very unusual, which was that AI progress was about to go very rapid. And we started thinking about the infrastructure that society was going to need if AI really started to happen. That you wanted the ability to verify humanity. You wanted to know who the people were. You wanted to be able to provide great infrastructure for humans and agents to be sending resources back and forth and doing all sorts of things and communicating with each other.
So how are we doing on that? Currently, every 2 seconds someone new is joining the network. We are at 15 million total users, 7 million of which verified with an orb. It will also require us to rethink how we as a society operate. We need to rethink how we do elections, how we run our democracies,
and even how we use the services that we love, like our social networks. And that's why we built the orb, which is an inclusive and secure, as well as an anonymous way to solve that proof of human problem at global scale.
Today, I'm incredibly excited to announce our new orb and the spaces it will live in. The orb is a very important part of our experience that we deliver to our users. It's where the user first meets us. So it's a very special moment, a moment where you prove that you are you, that you are human. The spaces we introduced today are the places where this orb will live. It's a bit of a temple, a place to visit to get verified. It's a bit of a temple, a place to visit to get verified.
You see, there we go again, people we don't know talking about temples to gods we don't understand.
But it's also designed with the values of a public space. It's inviting, simple, peaceful. It's focusing on the user, on the orb, and the verification.
So here it is. Here's the new orb. But to provide access to every human, we need more orbs. Lots more orbs, probably on the order of 1,000 times more orbs than we have today.
So let's talk about World ID. We talked about proof of human, we talked about the importance of it, but how you actually use it and how other services integrate it is World ID. And World ID will be the anonymous human layer for the internet.
And I skipped the introduction because I don't even know who Alex Blania is. He doesn't even have a Wikipedia. And don't ask me who that is either.
So today, we're beginning a beta of World ID credentials. We're rolling out in a number of countries. Today, United States passports work. Today, passports from a number of other countries are also in development, and we're rolling them out over the next couple of weeks.
Over the summer, Altman traveled the world to talk about the promise and peril of AI. I caught up with him when he returned to San Francisco at Bloomberg's annual Tech Summit.
So, you've been traveling a ton.
Yeah.
So you have been everywhere in like the last few months.
That was a long trip, yeah. It's like a very special experience to just go talk to people that are like users, developers, also world leaders interested in AI like all day, every day for so long.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, we also check to make sure that the image that's on that passport matches the image of the person that's using their phone. That'll become more important in just a moment. We use the image that's contained in that personal custody package captured by the orb and made available and held on the user's device to do a comparison to make sure that the person who's interacting with the device is actually the same as the person who originally signed up. That authentication is really critical for being able to decide where they can interact on the internet.
That's why we announced WorldChain.
Means that today, WorldChain is launching with 15 million human users, one of the biggest blockchains in the world on day one.
Why we started working on World App. And already today, World App is actually the third largest crypto wallet in the world. But that's, again, just the bare beginning.
It starts with World ID, your internet human identity. You can see whether you're verified, and if you're not, you can use the app to find an orb near you to be able to get verified. Now, of course, beyond orb verifications, World App now also supports the new World ID credentials, which means that you can now add things like your passport or your driver's license to your World ID to be able to prove things about yourself in the internet without compromising your anonymity. And lastly, World App will, of course, later this fall, allow you to prove not only that you're a real and unique person, but that you are who you say you are, powered by World ID Deepface.
But one of the things we've been thinking about actually for quite a while, and we know it sounds crazy, but it is that WorldCoin as a name just doesn't work anymore. And so, starting today, what has been called WorldCoin will be just called World.
So you see what is coming, what's been planned from the UBI to facial recognition to one passport, one government, one everything, one word, one world. And this is why we talk about the metaphors of meta and alphabets, because the words matter. This is why it's being changed to world.
In order to ensure the security and continuing stability, the Republic will be reorganized into the first galactic empire for a safe and secure society.
So this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause.
So if what's happening is so important and affects everyone, why is it shrouded in so much mystery? Why are we hearing about Diddy and his thing instead of this? Why are the people who are deciding this not even known, although they know already millions of people and they want to know more, and we don't even know them? Why is it like this? And why is the media not concerned about this, or anyone who's campaigning, or anyone else who is reporting anything else? Because I would believe that this is something that's affecting everyone. So it's a very interesting thing. So I would want to get deeper into it, and I'm just going to wrap it up here because there's another reason why we need to know what's going on.
I don't trust OpenAI. I don't trust Sam Altman, and I don't think we want to have the most powerful AI in the world controlled by someone who is not trustworthy. And sorry, I just don't. I mean,
but that seems like a fair concern.
Yeah.
But you don't think, as someone who knows him and has dealt with him, that he is worried about the possibility this could get out of control and hurt people?
He will say those words.
Yeah.
But no.
If we made an AI system that was better at doing AI research than all of OpenAI, and you could push a button and just say, improve really fast, that's an example of something I think would be moving too fast.
I think it will be able to do anything that any human can do. Possibly within the next year or two. And then that's what can it, how much longer than that does it take to be able to do what all humans can do combined? I think not long. Probably only, I don't know, 3 years from that point. So it like 2029-ish, 28, something like that. Yeah, I mean, one could say it's most likely going to be great, and there's some chance, which could be 10 to 20%, that it goes bad. The chance is not zero that it goes bad.
Life will certainly be different by 2030.
By 2029, I can guarantee you AI is not going to be the problem. Because the simple phrase, the race goes on.
AI is kind of a fancy thing.
Larry Ellison, the second richest man in the world, is about to explain the race to $1 trillion, and then I'm going to show you some major moves being made.
It's really kind of one winner. Someone's going to be better than this than anybody else. And multiple people are trying. And there is a race. If you listen to Jensen Huang, and I'm sure you do, I know you do because I've seen his stock price. And I know.
Then we caught up with Jensen Huang of NVIDIA, as you mentioned. We got to talk with him for a few minutes about the 2024 election, about that meeting, about AI, and his thoughts on all of it. We have the tape here for you. Let's listen in. What can you tell us about the meeting today?
Well, we're talking about energy, about this new industry called AI factories and artificial intelligence. And obviously, we're at the beginning of a new industrial revolution. And this industry is going to be producing intelligence. And what it takes is energy and, of course, a lot of great computer science and large computing systems that NVIDIA makes. And so
I went to dinner with Elon in Nobu, Palo Alto. I went to dinner with Elon Musk, Jensen Huang, and I went to dinner. And I would describe the dinner as Oracle and me and Elon begging Jensen for GPUs. Please take our money. More of it. You're not taking enough that we need you to take more of our money, please. The demand for GPUs, the desire to be first, the desire to build the most capable neural network.
Demand has never been higher for these racks and racks of powerful servers feeding the internet's insatiable appetite for computing in the cloud. And data centers like this can't ever stop. Streaming, social media, photo storage, and more recently, and requiring much more data, training and running chatbots like OpenAI's ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, and Microsoft's Copilot. One ChatGPT query takes nearly 10 times as much energy as a typical Google search, and as much energy as keeping a 5-watt LED bulb on for an hour. Generating an AI image can use as much power as charging your smartphone. Hyperscalers building data centers to accommodate AI have seen emissions skyrocket. And this problem isn't new. Estimates way back in 2019 found training one large language model produced as much CO2 as the entire lifetime of 5 gas-powered cars. And even if we can generate enough power, our aging grid is increasingly unable to handle the load. Google's latest environmental report says greenhouse gas emissions rose nearly 50% from 2019 to 2023, in part because of data center energy consumption. Although it adds its data centers are 1.8 times as energy efficient as a typical data center. Microsoft's emissions rose nearly 30% from 2020 to 2024 due to data centers designed and optimized to support AI workloads. Power needs are so high that some plans to close coal-fired power plants are being put on hold, like in Kansas City, where Meta is building an AI-focused data center.
So you to never really stop the AI computing from growing. So they will do whatever they can to get the power capacity.
What is the Matrix? Control. The Matrix is a computer-generated dream world, built to keep us under control in order to change a human being into this.
The demand for GPUs, the desire to be first, the desire to build the most capable neural network in the world, getting there first is a big deal. I mean, being first is very important. And the guys who are in this race are very smart, and they understand they need to be best at something. They'd like to be first. So they're spending a lot of time and a lot of money begging Jensen. We're building data centers. I mean, my God, we're building nuclear reactors. Are you kidding me? That sounds completely made up, but it's not.
A large reason we need more power and a more reliable grid for generative AI is to keep its servers cool. All the servers generate an immense amount of hot air, and cooling them down with air or water keeps them from overheating so they can keep running 24/7. The problem is, AI is projected to withdraw more water annually by 2027 than 4 times all of Denmark. Every 10 to 50 ChatGPT prompts can burn through what you'd find in a standard 16-ounce water bottle. Training takes even more power and generates even more heat, as it learns by accessing all the data constantly being added to the entire internet. Training GPT-3 in Microsoft's US data centers can directly evaporate 700,000 liters of clean fresh water, with global AI demand accountable for up to 6.6 billion cubic meters of water withdrawal by 2027, more than 4 times the total annual withdrawal of all of Denmark. In drought-ridden Chile, the government partially reversed Google's permit to build a data center there, following public outcry about water usage. And it's facing similar backlash to planned data centers in Uruguay, too.
You need a lot of power to power acres of these acres of these GPU clusters.
OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has been vocal about this need. He recently invested in a solar startup that makes shipping container-sized modules that include both the panels and power storage in one. Altman's also invested in nuclear fission startup Oklo that aims to make mini nuclear reactors housed in A-frame structures, and in nuclear fusion startup Helion. Microsoft also signed a deal with Helion last year to start buying its fusion electricity in 2028.
I'm not sure. Has anything like this ever happened before? You know what basic stakes is? You know what it costs to build a frontier model? Anyone know over the next three years? Yeah. How much will be spent if you're one of the companies that want to build a frontier model? You know how much will you spend? Anybody? Anyone want to guess? 10 billion? Anyone? 100 billion? Yeah, 100 billion. That's going to get you in the game. Put down your 100 billion. You ever see Molly's Game? You come in and you say, here's my money. Okay, it's not Molly's Game. It's a bigger game. Put in your 100 billion, and you're in the race. Not a lot of people, not a lot of companies, not a lot of countries, will participate.
OpenAI just announcing an improved model, their AI model. They say it has better reasoning.
Amazon Web Services is announcing that it's investing more than $500 million in nuclear energy across 3 different projects as it seeks carbon-free power for generative AI.
Google, speaking of, is the latest tech giant to go nuclear to meet power needs for data centers and AI.
So it seems Larry Page was right. The only race that's there is the race for resources, and actually the human resource.
Artificial intelligence would be the ultimate version of Google. So if we had the ultimate search engine, it would understand everything on the web. It would understand, exactly what you wanted, and it would give you the right thing.
He really seemed to be wants sort of digital superintelligence, basically digital God, as soon as possible.
And that's obviously artificial intelligence. We'd be able to answer any question, basically, because almost everything is on the web, right? And so we're nowhere near doing that now.
2035.
I think it's hard to say where all this can go without sounding like a crazy person.
However, we can get incrementally closer to that, and that's basically what we work on.
You're so calm, you're so relatable, it seems like everything's okay. Is that how you really feel?
I don't want to give a false sense of security here.
We have all this data. If you printed out our index, it would be 70 miles high now. We have all this computation. We have about 6,000 computers.
At the time, Google had acquired DeepMind, and so Google and DeepMind together had about 3/4 of all the AI talent in the world. They obviously had a tremendous amount of money and more computers than anyone else. So I'm like, okay, we have a unipolar world here, where there's just one company that has close to a monopoly on AI talent and computers, like scaled computing. And the person who's in charge doesn't seem to care about safety. This is not good. So then I thought, what's the furthest thing from Google would be like a nonprofit that is fully open, because Google was closed for profit. So that's why the open in OpenAI refers to open source, transparency, so people know what's going on.
So we have a lot of resources available. That we have enough disk space to store like 100 copies of the whole web.
And so the machine is taught. And part of the issue here is what information is going into the machine.
So you have a really interesting sort of confluence of a lot of different things, right? A lot of computation, a lot of data that didn't used to be available. And, from an engineering scientific standpoint, building things to, make use of this is a really interesting intellectual exercise. So I expect to be doing that for a while.
In a race that is moving extremely fast.
The boom in artificial intelligence requires huge numbers of data centers, and building them will use millions of tons of copper. It's also needed in batteries, without which the energy transition cannot happen. Everything from electric vehicles to solar power systems needs copper, cobalt, lithium, and nickel.
This is where it gets crazy, and this is where it gets real. Put it in plain English. All of this development will be on the back of Africa. All of these minerals, all of this silver, gold, it should come from Africa and other places that are less developed. So this is the conundrum, and this is why no one is talking about this.
Kobold's AI model for predicting where a valuable copper deposit might be found has already had some success. In Zambia, the company has discovered a seam of copper a mile underground that it estimates would produce at least 300,000 tons of copper a year once operational, with a value of billions of dollars.
And a deposit like this is the kind of deposit that we need for the future of the industry. Our Mingomba project has enough copper in it for more than 100 million electric vehicles. Our Mingomba project in Zambia is the highest grade and largest undeveloped copper deposit that we know about in the world today.
So Zambia itself is not even participating in this great race to $1 trillion. And I don't even think there's even a single billionaire in Zambia at the moment. And even if there happens to be one, it'd be like a person getting 1 billion, while these people are getting hundreds of billions. So this is what's going on. Very, very strange. But actually, just check out what's actually really happening, the moves that are being made as we speak. And this will go back to you supporting this platform, because this is how we're actually able to do this, because exposing this is half the work, but we have to take a certain action with tact. They're doing what they're doing with greater impact because they're backing each other up, and in the media screens they're making it seem like it's something else. But let's take a look at what's really going on.
Kobold, which is backed by funders including Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, plans to invest $2 billion in the Zambian site and says it could start sinking shafts in 2027, while its exploration teams keep looking for other sites.
If you go look at a map of vast majority of the high quality deposits where nature has produced this copper in incredibly concentrated form, remain to be discovered.
Trafigura and BHP have both estimated that AI could add 1 million tonnes a year of copper demand by 2030, on top of an expected 4 to 5 million tonne deficit as the energy transition fuels demand.
The scale of the problem is that we need more than $10 trillion worth of those metals over and above what we're going to produce from known mines today. The scale of the problem is that we need more than $10 trillion worth of those metals over and above what we're going to produce from known mines today.
You guys are hearing it too, right? Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos are already backing that guy. In other words, that guy works for them, for Bill Gates and Bezos and their data centers. And they need $10 trillion of these minerals. And in the situation like this, which countries are supposed to be growing and booming and prospering with this great news? But what do you think is going to happen? Do you think Zambia is going to get a trillionaire, or maybe it will have its first billionaire perhaps? But it's only because that person will be a conduit for these people. This is all going on. We have to also be active. We also have to know that everything going on and happening is happening behind our backs but in our faces. This is why I open sourced this whole video. It's just things that are on the media and not in people's faces. So we're being distracted, but we have to take an action that resembles the word Ubuntu. The word Ubuntu is humanity. They're building tools for humanity, I know. But these robots have no understanding of Ubuntu. But this is what we need. This word Ubuntu is something like a frequency. If you say it, it evokes something. It bothers people. It is provocative. But this is what we need. We don't even hear it. We don't even understand it. But if we had this, then everything that is going to happen in 2030 will benefit everyone. But I just pray for you and me that we are all able to protect and guide each other. Prayers and blessings.
The one and only person who's going to be deciding our futures. Why should we trust you?
You shouldn't.
Artificial intelligence has been an object of fascination for decades in our imaginations.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
It's no longer imaginary, and at these early stages, it's the people building the technology who have the power.
Well, they have different backgrounds and opinions about the kind of future racing toward us, but they all agree the stakes are too high for anyone to sit this out.
The stakes, meanwhile, are only growing as AI's impact touches more and more of our everyday lives. The chatbots in our browsers, robotaxis in the streets, misinformation in our news feeds, disrupting Hollywood, reshaping entire industries like energy and healthcare. These technologies, they're finally here, but they're still in the cradle. And we may look back on AI as one of the most important issues of 2024. For now, the power behind AI policy isn't on the campaign trail. It's in the hands of Sam Altman and Silicon Valley.